Live. We are live now. Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Vinod, and I lead sales here at Plum. Welcome to the fourth episode of Uncovering HR with Plum, our LinkedIn Live series, where we dissect some of country's best brains on topics related to human resource, talent acquisition, and workplace well-being. Today is a special day. Today's topic is also very special because we are talking about employee morale, and we'll be looking at it from a psychological lens, the frameworks, the science, and advice backed by data and numbers. I've got none other than Sameera Khan joining me here. She's inFeedo's Director of People Success. A little bit about Sameera. Sameera is a certified REBT therapist from Albert Ellis Institute, New York, and holds a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. She's also a people advisor at Antler VC. I don't know how you do so many things at the same time, Samira, but welcome. It's a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you so much, VCM, for the kind introduction. I think I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's get directly into it. We've got a short amount of time, and we've got a lot of psychological frameworks to fit into this. So let's start with what psychological frameworks do people use when creating a high employee morale in an organization? Let's start with that question, Samira.
Awesome. So, VCM, if I have to be honest with you, yes, I do have a background in psychology and I love all schools of thought when it comes to psychology, right? But I have always followed a more eclectic approach, which is I pick up things from every domain and school of thought possible, right? For example, sports or sales or marketing or CS. So, I look at the people function being built on top of these school of thoughts rather than just looking at, let's say, people or people success or HR. And I'll give you an example of something that I read early on in my career was Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. So everyone asked him, "Hey, we practice the same amount. We have the same coach. How are you still better than us?" And he said, "I've read the referee handbook, which gave me insights into all the blind spots that the referees have at a given point in time. So I can get away with a foul because I know that, right?" So that made me understand that you have to know your stakeholders, you have to know your customers. So read from that perspective. So I'm always reading sales, CEO strategies, etc., etc. That has given me that perspective. But when it comes to psychological framework, what has helped me is start with the basics, right? Now there are two-factor theories, there are motivational theories, but something that I always go back to is Maslow's need hierarchy, and that's really simple, right? All of us know about it, and Ganesh also sharing his screen. But I created something that is, closer to a startup edition of Maslow's need hierarchy theory. And what this does is it works with constraints that, let's say, smaller organizations have, right? So there are these five factors that do lead to a high morale in a particular organization, starting with basic hygiene. Now you cannot it's the same as this. If you're hungry, can you think about doing anything at all? You first want to take care of your hunger and then you want to take up a task or workout or whatever. So that your basic hygiene in a startup context would be a well-defined job role and a good salary. And how does inFeedo do this? We have KPIs for an open position. For example, if we know we want to hire someone, we'll have KPIs in the start itself. A lot of times, our captains, managers who we call captains, would be like, "Okay, but why do we need that?" And over the years, we've realized that that has really helped us create value for that particular role because they understand they will join and they will be responsible for something really important. And a good salary in today's market, I think we do compensation benchmarking every 6 to 8 months. That has kept us aware of where the market is moving, how things are going, and how our team members can feel valued, right? So those are the basic hygiene factors. When this is covered is when people move to the next step, which is security needs, right? And what comes under security needs is, if I'm joining a startup, is the startup going to be there 3 years from now, 4 years from now? And the startup population is young, and a lot of their validators are their parents, their families, who have grown up in a world of Infosys and the big fours and all of that. So the first question they ask is, what company is this, and are you sure you want to join this company? So security needs basically is, how safe do I feel to join this company? um, are they profitable? Do they have a runway? Can they sustain, let 3 4 5 years from now? um, and because of which, the next part, and an advantage that startups have, is ESOPs. I've seen a lot of companies are doing really well. inFeedo, I'm really proud of this one thing that inFeedo has been able to do, which is arrange for two buybacks. Right, for an organization as small as ours, it's very rare. But both the founders, Tanmay and Varun, really think that it's important to create value for our team members. So we've been able to have one buyback a couple of years ago, and that's one going on right now, where we will be buying back, and people will understand the value of ESOPs and wealth creation that it has. And of course, basic resources to succeed. People always think that, okay, I might join the workforce, but I have no team to succeed. Okay, what do I do now? And would I get let go if I'm not performing well? So I think all of these come under the security needs. And once both of these are sorted and taken care of, is when then people move on to other things, right? And are performing well. The third thing on this hierarchy is community and belonging. Uh, Now we have a lot of data when it comes to people, right? And we ourselves have a lot of amber check-ins that happen, that help us further validate these things. So community, by community and belonging, I mean, is a stellar team, which is, am I proud of the team I'm working with? Is the team that I'm working with inspiring? um, right, is the team pushing me to be better? That would be part of community and belonging. Of course, there would be an inclusive culture and perks. What is the culture like? Is it discriminating between different religions or regions or race, or or is it very inclusive? And I think that's what people remember. And you need to create a culture where people can be their best selves without having to be someone else. And of course, perks, and by perks I mean, of course, health insurance. Plum has been amazing in that front. But people want to be taken care of. And one of the most important things for every single person, including me, is my family, and are my loved ones taken care of? So your perks and an inclusive culture may not just be for you, but for people around you. We have a mental health policy that's not just covers therapy for our team members, but also any one of their plus ones, right? We've seen our friends suffer with mental health. We've seen our parents, our families. And that has really helped us open up, or at least discuss the taboo around mental health. Um, and like I said, health insurance for startups used to be, it's a long process. Let's think about it when we are much bigger, when we have a much bigger team to take care of. But I think organizations like Plum have made it very easy, and we feel really proud that our team members feel secure that their loved ones are being taken care of. Of course, being heard and valued, a part of community and belonging is, am I valued here? If I'm trying to make a point, is it being heard? Is it being acted upon? And finally, company mission and vision. I think this is really interesting. Right now there are so many organizations out there, so people can pick companies and missions and vision that they can relate to. It's not that, okay, there are five companies, I'm going to pick any one of them and just satisfy the first 2 points, which is basic hygiene and security needs. No, I have lots of options, so I'm going to see, and I'm going to work for a mission that I closely relate with. And this works personally for me. I love what inFeedo does, right? It's very close to my heart. Industrial psychology, there is Amber that works on AI and psychological frameworks, and it solves for people feeling happy or unhappy at work. And everyone at inFeedo feels that strongly about a mission, which is why it becomes like a cult. Like, we are known for that. Like the t-shirt I'm wearing, we are in folks, and you feel really proud of building this community. The fourth thing, and these two stages could be interchangeable depending on who it is and the kind of company it is. Respect and recognition. But it would mean that, hey, it's also part of equity theory, that is my outcome proportionate to the no is my output proportionate to the outcome that I'm getting, which is, am I being fair, am I being valued for the work that I'm putting in? I'm working 10 hours a day, so is that proportionate to what the company thinks? So that would be fair appraisals and promotions. uh, Company brand and direction. So this comes much later, when you've already joined, you've spent a year, and you want to reevaluate that. I was told it was going to be X, but right now we are moving in a slightly different direction. And that's when people start thinking that, okay, do I still relate to the mission? And that's why company brand and direction is important. It's also the validation that you get from around your people, right? Are people saying that, wow, this company has a bright future, or are people saying that, what is this company even doing? So I think validation from your peers and people that influence you is also really important. And a clear career growth. You have to check in with your people. um, how clearly can they visualize their career, and if not, take action on it. It's a question that we ask every quarter to everybody at inFeedo, and something that has really helped us with a lot of insights. And when once all of these four stages are taken care of, is when we can look at a high morale organization, where people are really engaged, have a lot of confidence in the work that they're doing, and of course, are needle movers for the company, right? Hey, own this project, take it from 0 to 1. They'll be able to do that. And it only means that you're setting the foundation strong enough for people to be able to do that. Yes, and that's the startup edition of Maslow's need hierarchy.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Thank you so much, Samira. It resonates a lot with managing large teams myself, right? And I can see why a model like that could really help, because a lot of times people come to me and say it's not about the money, and you would be assuming that it's about the money. And then there are people who also come and say that it's about the money and it's not about the vision too. So I think as organizations, everybody has got to understand that it has to be a pyramid where all of these come together. So I completely agree with you. For the audience who are just joining us, please use the comment section to add your comments. By the way, you're getting a lot of love. Proud in folk is the hashtag we are all seeing there. So that's good. Let's shift screens. And I want to talk about, I understand inFeedo, and pandemic has sort of put a spotlight on it. A lot of organizations similar to inFeedo are remote only. I understand inFeedo is almost only remote, right? And unlike Plum, it's not hybrid. So most organizations don't realize if they are remote, even when they are not remote and offline for 100%, they don't realize that their employees are having a hard time until it starts reflecting on performance and Glassdoor reviews and the hallway conversations and stuff. So how do you bell this cat? How do you go about doing this proactively, Samira?
That's a very good question. And, I would be lying, BCM, if I said that, okay, we have no troubles, we have it all sorted. Of course, we are learning in this process. inFeedo was not always remote, right? So we started off with a very strong culture of in office, everyone meeting. And we had to slowly change that to a remote culture. And of course, we learned from amazing companies out there who've been doing it for years, like Zapier and Automatic. Um, and from that, we've been able to figure out a way to understand, okay, how are people feeling. And that's a core product as well, so I'll come to that. But I have two factors, right? There are direct factors and there are indirect factors that help me understand the employee morale in a remote setup. And I'll talk about the indirect ones because they're kind of cute and something that have made me really happy. So one is, of course, Monday mornings, right? It's very evident, like when you wake up, are you excited about your Monday morning, or are you like, oh no, I have to open my laptop again? And that's honestly how Tanmay starts our all hands, right? Reminds us that that's what we are solving for. And Monday mornings is something that is critical, that nobody should have to wake up on Monday and feel, what am I doing, right? They should be able to feel really excited. So that's one indirect factor. And the other one is, and this is funny, and that happens at inFeedo a lot. So whenever recruiters or someone reaches out to the team members to ask them, hey, do you want to make a move? The message that goes back is, hey, how about you join us? And the screenshot would be in my DM. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really, adorable for the team member to do that. And it makes me really happy that, and we've been able to convince people in that way to join us, right? And that I think is high morale and a good example of high morale. Um, but coming to direct factors and something that's more scientific, something that's more repeatable and can be a process is, of course, ENPS, which we do every quarter, right? I think every single person in the people success function right now focuses a lot on the recommendability score. But what we also do is add a couple of other questions that I've learned from different people, leaders across my career, which could be something around career growth. It could be about having fun at work. It could be about connecting to the mission. It could be about a bunch of other things that people feel strongly. And then Amber helps us carve out a score for each person to figure out their engagement. So it's ENPS coupled with a couple of other factors that helps us figure that out, right? So that's one, direct indicators of employee morale. The second is performance, because it's really tied. We use an OKR approach. So we have everything is objective. And if you pick up any info right now and ask them, hey, what's your P0? Everyone will know what they're working towards for July, right? It's crystal clear. Even our KPIs are crystal clear. At any given point in time, you would know what my achieve is. Am I meeting my targets or not? Am I on track or not? And we feel like that unites everybody when it's a clear direction that we are working towards. The third is innovation, and this is very interesting. I think high morale teams like to experiment and will go out of their way to take up, different opportunities. And in a remote setup, it is a setback because we are not together to be able to say that, okay, let's go for chai and, let's figure out what's happening. It is tougher, but I think it's really important for organizations to create that atmosphere where they can meet. At inFeedo, we ourselves are trying to do that with our quarterly kickoffs where we meet in person, having a budget for team members to meet if they need to. And that's something that we are solving for as well as we speak. The third would be Glassdoor reviews. This is an interesting topic, right? It has to be, people should feel really strongly to be actually be able to go out, put out a message, and for you to be able to track it, reply, and engage. A lot of people who are prospective hires will actually go to Glassdoor and be like, okay, I've read this, is it true? But I think we've been able to do a good job there. We have a 4.9 Glassdoor review. And I think Amber also helps us through that because there are prompts when somebody says really good things to Amber. Amber will be like, "Do you want to leave a Glassdoor review?" And that's helped as well. And the last bit that helps us gauge employee morale in a remote setup is, of course, Amber, and I can cover it in the next segment.
Yeah, I think we should talk about it. I've heard a lot about Amber. I found this tweet by your CEO when he was talking about how Amber helped HR identify an employee in crisis, and this is a crisis which is crisis. It's not that I didn't get my salary or I'm unhappy with my manager. This encompasses a lot of it. So let's talk. I'm curious to know how do you see Amber solving for it? Talk to us a little bit about Amber.
This is really incredible, right? This moment at work was really amazing that Amber was able to do this, and this is not the first time. I think, like, for those of you who don't know, Amber is a flagship product and it works, it's powered by AI and works on psychological frameworks. So what it does, it reaches out to people on different milestones, different timings, and asks them how they're feeling. Now, for example, even if you're a big company or a small one, you can't possibly, as an individual, cannot reach out to different employees who've joined you and figure out what they're saying, note it down, create actionables out of that. So what Amber does, it'll do it on its own and identify people to meet on these different time zones, right? It's a tenure based thing. So it would identify people who are not happy with their onboarding, maybe people who are not happy after completing 1 year, people who are probably not happy after a promotion or a manager change. Um, And of course, that's just one part. We also have anonymous bat, where people can speak to an anonymous bat anonymously, and share whatever it is they're feeling, right? That's in case people are not comfortable. How Amber has helped us: we have pulse check-in, which is something that I like you can do, and you can modify and check whenever there's a big change. So if Amber does not do it herself, I would set up a pulse, which could be a quarterly check-in for eNPS. It could be, if we want, whenever we do decide to become, when we did decide to become remote, we did a quick check that, hey, are you all comfortable being remote, right? It's really important to hear what your team wants, and we always take a decision in a democratic way that way. So that helps. Um, Now, something interesting about Amber is that Amber is a conversational chatbot, right? So it'll have a conversation with you. It would not be like, hey, VCM, you tell me something and then I'll say bye. It does not work like that. So it'll be a conversation where you're telling me that, hey, you know what, my onboarding wasn't, let's say, the best. So Amber will be like, okay, tell me more. Okay, what about the onboarding was bad? So what it's trying to do is create actionables for the person receiving the feedback. Um, and there are multiple things you can do with that data, which then gets converted into a dashboard that, let's say, I can see and I can act upon. So at any given point in time, I know my engagement score, I know my eNPS score, I know the number of people I need to meet, and the leadership needs to meet, and I know people who are, let's say, passive or silent users. What we've noticed is feedback is amazing. If people continuously want to give you feedback, it means they're engaged. People stop giving you feedback when they stop caring or when they think it's useless. So you have to track your silent users, right? You have to be able to know that, okay, these people are not speaking at all. We need to have a deep dive, or we need to figure out what's really happening. um, Another thing that we do at inFeedo is all the experiments that we want to have when it comes to the product first starts with our team. So we've done a bunch of things that have been pretty cool, integrating a bunch of things with our HRMS. But I think that's a cool thing that the product team and the engineering team is always doing, where they will experiment with us first, and probably record our entire experience before we roll it out to the bigger thing. And I think it's quite interesting what happens there. um,
Yeah.
having said having said that, I think all of these tools are to empower you, but we never lose the one-on-one touch. For example, the people team will always meet up with people and always have that connect. So do not think of it as that, okay, but we are a close knit team. Why should we use
Yeah.
a AI chatbot? So AI chatbot is not replacing your one-on-one connect. It's making you have a more actionable approach to things. So that's
Got,
how we've been using
got
Amber.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. If you're buying into the vision as per your pyramid, then acquiring your own dog food is very exciting. At Plum, I get to see all the benefits which are rolled out coming in early as well, right? In Fido, you get to see all the good work coming in on employee morale being implemented. So that way, if you buy into the vision, I think you'll have a lot more fun. There's some interesting questions coming here. Let me try to put some of that together from the comments section.
Yep.
First question is around any survey. Are surveys helpful in monitoring employee morale, especially remote or hybrid setups? What have you found helpful in your experience?
Oh, absolutely. So we don't use surveys because it could, let's say, be people have survey fatigue, right? It's so that's something that we've noticed, and a lot of research suggests that. So we have Amber who reaches out, and that has been super helpful and critical, because it reaches out at very important and critical points that I may miss out as somebody from the people team. So yes, of course, it's useful. Like I said, we check on really important milestones. That could be right after they finish their onboarding, right after they finish their first 6 months, right after they
Hmm.
finish their first 1 year, and
Hmm.
figure ask them questions about clarity of growth. Ask them questions if they have everything they need to be successful in their current organizations. um, and of course, we have a bunch of other questions that I'll be happy to shell out after this session.
Great, great. Yeah. Let's take another question here. What would your top three employee motivation challenges that you've faced and solved successfully. Maybe top three, top one, out of the conversations you've had with inFeedo and Amber, what has pointed out, and then how have you sort of executed that to closure?
That's a very good question. I think the recent one that we were able to solve, and this is something that I haven't even been able to address in the all hands yet, but I just know, I just
Hmm.
got the Amber data, and so it was burnout, where we
Hmm.
realized that a certain percentage of people were feeling that they were working more than they could in a remote
Hmm.
setup, and then we took certain measures. For example, we mapped their team, we figured out how many people do they have reporting to themselves. We figured out what is the work they're doing and whether all of it is necessary, or we can further prioritize that. And we also have a leadership program where all the minus ones of certain leaders are being trained to address these issues themselves, rather than holding it, or rather than pushing it back to the leadership, right? That could also be stressful. And we noticed that within 1 quarter, um, we were able to bring it down by about 10 or 12%, just the burnout, uh, the number of people who said that they were feeling kind of burnt out. So that was
Got it.
one thing. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. Uh, there are a bunch of more questions, but let me ask you this, right? One of our culture values is we call it the culture of care. What does that mean to you? From where you stand at inFeedo, from personally yourself, what does culture of care mean to you?
That's a good question too. A couple of things I'd like to club some of the questions that are also coming in. I think in a remote setup, a culture of care is leading by trust. And by leading by
Got it.
trust, for inFeedo means that we have upfront salaries. We don't ask questions when people go for leaves. We don't have time checks. For example, it's outcomes that we focus on. So leading by trust has really helped us, because we can't have people doubting each other in a remote setup, right? So that's number one. The second thing is we're always listening. And something
Mm.
I've learned, and Tanmay, if you're listening, that Tanmay always asks me whenever I want to share feedback. He'll be like, "Okay, do you want me to listen to you, or do you want to brainstorm of an idea?" And that's when I realized that sometimes you just want to talk things out, like when, and it could be
Yeah.
your peer or your manager. So we're always listening actively. The third thing is action speaks louder than anything else. So if somebody is going out of their way to give you feedback, you have to act on it, and that is the like topmost form of care that you possibly can show to your team members. um, and
I,
this is again, yeah.
I was just going to say that resonates so well with me. Yeah, yeah. Please continue.
And the last thing is, people remember how you made them feel. So always treat
Yeah,
people how you would like to be treated, and that has been
yeah.
my value for a really long time. I'll always empathize with people. I'll try and figure out how my friends would feel, or how my close ones would feel, and then derive policies and different processes basis that. So that really helps.
That's great. Thank you. A lot of that resonates well with me. So before we bring this to closure, you said if Tanmay, if he is listening, and we were listening, or rather reading an article recently where he said that inFeedo wants to be the Apple of employee experience. Do you mind telling us what that looks like? What does that even mean from your perspective and inFeedo's perspective?
That's that's nice. I wish she was here to answer this question. But all of us are Apple fans, right? And so we want, like, the vision is to be the best at employee experience, completely change the way people hire, engage, retain their employees. And I think the last generation of companies were obsessed with customers, right? Everyone just spoke about customers. But I think this generation of companies are obsessed with employees and obsessed with their team members, which then creates amazing products, right? So that's what we mean. We want to change that for all organizations to be able to deliver that wow experience.
That is awesome. Sameera, I had such a lovely time talking to you. I wish we had LinkedIn Live for a couple of hours. We could talk more. There are a bunch of audience questions which we'll try to get via type. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the fourth episode. And hopefully, we get to continue to see you with interesting topics like this. And for those folks who joined us, thank you so much for joining us and hearing from Sameera. And we really wishing inFeedo all the best to be the apple of employee experience.
Thank you so much. It was a
It's 5
pleasure.
o'clock.
Thank you so much for hosting me, VCM.
Thank you. I think that's the clock is also saying 5 o'clock. So yeah.
Bye bye.